The implication is that right to property is no longer a fundamental right, rather it has become a legal right. Plus the Supreme Court in the presidential reference Kerala Education Bill enunciated the doctrine of harmonious balance to be struck between fundamental rights and DPSP. I will do limited critical analysis. मतलब मैं बहुत ज़्यादा elaborate नहीं करूँगी, मैं 2-3 points लिख दिए तो बहुत है. Yes, my answer, substantive portion of my answer is going to be substantiation of these two statements. It is about generally कि they are indispensable. तो मैं I will talk in terms of how good parliamentary committee is, why parliamentary committees are important. On that substantive portion of my answer will be, but I will also mention the challenges, the shortcomings, the issues, the concerns of parliamentary committee. Recent development in Indian politics has not eroded the true spirit of a recent development, new education policy, the 3-language formula, उस पे जो debate चल रहा है between the state of Tamil Nadu and the central government.
Congratulations on clearing UPSC 2024. Watching you succeed is really inspiring.
Thanks. I have been in your shoes. I know how overwhelming the start feels.
Exactly. There's so much to cover, I don't even know where to begin.
I felt the same. That's why I joined the GS Foundation course by Vision IAS, which offers structured classes, expert faculty, and regular revision. It gave me clarity and momentum.
And you stayed consistent with it?
Yes, I followed the complete roadmap offered by the course. If you're aiming for 2026, start with this course. It offers you holistic coverage with every stage of the exam covered seamlessly. This is where your journey will truly begin.
Got it. I will definitely explore the course. Where can I find the details?
Just visit their website or call on the given numbers.
Good evening, all of you. So today we are here to discuss the Section B, Paper 1. Yes, the topics of Section B, Paper 1. Yes, the first question, let us begin with the paper. Yes, so the first question, explain briefly the role of peasant movements after 1857 and before independence. Yes, so what is the question? It is explore the role of peasant movements after 1857 or before independence. Yes, you find that this in fact is one of the popular topics, popular areas from which question is asked. There is a topic on India's freedom struggle that is part of your IGP paper. So there we require the understanding as far as India's freedom struggle is concerned. So you have the extremist movement, the moderates, the difference between the extremists and the moderates, the non-cooperation movement, the civil disobedience movement, and within it there is also this discussion on the peasant movement as well as worker movement. Both are considered to be the important areas from which questions are asked. In fact, few previous year question 2022 they had asked workers movement in India in post-independence period, and here in 2014-15 you find explain how peasant movement promoted nationalist ideas during the struggle for Indian independence. Yes, so in fact this will be one of the themes that you will discuss, that peasant movement. Yes, we will discuss the role of peasant movement in what context? Maybe in amelioration of the condition of the peasants, as well as the role in national movement, its role in national awakening of the peasants, making them part of this mass movement called India's freedom struggle. So basically we need to here what they have done in this question specifically, they have specified the time period from 1857 till 1947. For these 90 years, what was the role of the peasant movement in India's struggle for independence? Yes. So how do you go about, what should be the approach? Introduce the role of peasant movement in India after 1857 as a critical phase of agrarian resistance and political awakening within the colonial context. So it is agrarian resistance which leads to political awakening. Emphasize their significance in shaping nationalist struggle and economic exploitation faced by peasants under the British rule. Yes, in shaping the nationalist struggle and elaborating on the economic exploitation which has been faced by peasants under the colonial rule. See, as far as this question is concerned, how do you write the answer? If I were to structure this, the answer to this question, explain briefly the role of the peasant movement from 1857 till 1947. Yes, so I will first discuss why peasant movements. Yes, under why peasant movements? Because they happen to be one of the most exploited class. Yes, and why were they exploited? Because of the land revenue settlement system. Yes, this land revenue settlement system in terms of reauthority system and other systems. Yes, so they happen to be one of the most exploited. You will talk about how it has played a role in political awakening. Yes, in fact, it was the role of Gandhiji who could integrate this peasant movement. The Champaran Satyagraha, the Kheda Satyagraha. So you find the role of Gandhiji as far as integrating peasants movement into India's national movement for independence. Yes, which translated into it becoming a mass movement. It was able to capture attention. We will give a few examples as well going about as far as this role played by these movements is concerned. Yes. So peasant unrest and colonial exploitation. We will mention that post 1857 the exploitative zamindari and reauthority system deepened agrarian crisis, leading to uprisings like Indigo rebellion. Of course, to distinguish between the Pol Science answer and an say GS answer of paper 1, I am going to bring in thinkers like, here comes Ranjit Guha, who highlighted that they were not simply economic protests but also politically they challenged the authority of the colonial power. Gandhian role I have already elaborated, that he was able to link the Champaran Satyagraha, the Kheda Satyagraha and transformed and bring the peasants within the nationalist fervor. Yes, the key differentiator as far as your answer is concerned, the peasant movement were diverse with regional uprisings like Deccan riots and Santhal rebellion, but Gandhiji's leadership unified these struggles within the larger anti-colonial framework. His strategies helped integrate peasant issues into nationalist policies. Yes, so you find that once again emphasizing on role of Gandhi there. Yes, and conclusion, these movements were essential in shaping India's political economy and set the stage for post-independence agrarian reforms. Fine. Yes, है ना? They motivated us to in fact undertake abolition of zamindari system post-independence. Fine. The next question is, write a note on the Dalit perspective of Indian national movement. Once again, the Dalit perspective is a very, very important perspective as far as Indian national movement is concerned. And why is it an important perspective? Because it gives us the point of view of Dalits as far as this movement is concerned. Fine. Now, once again, it is one of the very popular themes on which the question is asked. So, you find that the Dalit perspective is one popular theme. The next popular theme happens to be radical humanist perspective. There, we generally have said to students that you need, there was a time in fact where UPSC would either be asking the Dalit perspective or radical humanist perspective. Every 3 years a question on it would for sure come. So you have now the Marxist perspective, all this is important, but these two perspectives have generally been important. In fact, last year also there was a question not directly on the Dalit perspective per se, but it had integrated the Dalit point of view of India's freedom struggle. Ambedkar giving the slogan, agitate, educate and organize. Yes, so in that context also how he inspired the Dalits as far as India's freedom struggle. Yes, such questions have been common. In fact, direct question on Dalit perspective is asked. You can see in 2019 there was a question, 2011 there were questions, and in between also there have been many years when they have asked questions on Dalit perspective. Now, as far as how do you go about writing an answer to it? Write a note on the Dalit perspective of Indian national movement. How would you write an answer? So generally we can say that there are various perspectives through which Indian national movement has been interpreted. Fine, so there are numerous perspectives, and starting with the colonial perspective itself, which did not recognize India to be a nation or in Indian National Congress to be a national party at all. Rather, it was seen as a bourgeois party carrying forward the bourgeois interest, and that party representing the Brahmins and carrying forward their interest. That was also even the colonial perspective for that matter. Yes, and there is colonial, there is nationalist perspective. Yes, वहाँ पे भी liberal nationalist perspective है Surendranath Banerjee, cultural perspective of Aurobindo Ghosh. Yes, and similarly we have the Dalit perspective. These are, what do we mean? These are perspective matlab point of view. Yes, how do Dalits look at India, look at the nature of Indian national movement? So basically there are various point of views as far as interpreting the Indian national movement is concerned. And one of the important perspectives happens to be the Dalit perspective. Yes, now it is in this context we need to discuss what exactly is the Dalit perspective. So here you will have to quote the Dalit scholars. The primary Dalit scholars that we quote are Ambedkar, Phule and E.V. Ramaswamy Nayakar or Periyar. Yes, so these three scholars we quote, and through their views we will express the Dalit perspective of Indian national movement. Yes, so it is a unique perspective which critiques the mainstream nationalist struggle, focusing on the focus of the Dalit perspective is social emancipation and caste equality, social equality. Yes, and the views of the prominent Dalit scholars like B.R. Ambedkar, Jyoti Rao Phule and Periyar, that fight for political freedom is incomplete without redressing caste-based oppression. Yes, so their perspective we need to note down. So some core points: Dalit leaders like Ambedkar has critiqued the mainstream movement for ignoring ideas of social justice, emphasizing that political freedom was meaningless if caste hierarchies persisted. Yes, Ambedkar's work, particularly in what Congress and Gandhi had done to the untouchables, he has highlighted the need for social revolution along with political independence. Phule and Periyar, they have focused on, Phule particularly led this movement on education. Yes, women education, social reform, political assertion. Yes, Periyar, the temple movement that he led in southern India. All these, and an emphasis on self-respect and Dalit rights, which would challenge the caste-based status quo, advocating for broader equality. Fine, and we conclude saying that it emphasized emancipation must encompass social justice and caste annihilation. Yes, so no freedom struggle can be won without social justice and without caste annihilation. Next question is, land reforms program led to some constitutional amendments? Comment. Yes, so it is a question, land reforms program led to some constitutional amendments. Yes, first land reform program was about upon India's independence. In fact, prior to India's independence, India had decided on abolition of zamindari system. Yes, and equitable distribution of land amongst the peasants, the poor peasants. Yes, abolition of bonded labor, abolition of cashless labor. Yes, in sharecropping tradition, we wanted to do away with all that and end these gross inequality in the agrarian system, demonstrated through some few people, few zamindars holding large estates of land, while others being landless farmers. Yes, so it is in this context. In fact, to implement it, India had to bring in constitutional amendment. Why? Because while India had decided prior to independence that we are going to undertake land reform such as abolition of zamindari system, but at the same time right to property was a fundamental right under Indian Constitution, under Article 19, Clause 1, Clause F, and under Article 31 of the Constitution. Yes. Now, as soon as India decided to implement zamindari or abolish zamindari rights, we had to bring in constitutional amendments. Otherwise, the land reforms would have been challenged on the ground of right to property. And consequently, by the very first Constitutional Amendment Act, which was introduced in 1951, yes, Government of India introduced Article 31A and 31B and Schedule 9 to the Constitution. Yes, so Article 31A, 31B and Schedule 9 to the Constitution. तो अभी Schedule A क्या किससे डील करता है? Yes. It deals with that abolition of estates. Yes, that would not be challenged for violation of right to property. It provides protection to the laws that are enacted to implement land reform and to abolish zamindari system on the ground of violation of fundamental right to property. Article 31B provides for Schedule 9. In fact, it says that those laws which are placed under Schedule 9 by the Union, they cannot be challenged. Yes, those laws which are placed under Schedule 9 cannot be challenged or cannot be taken up for judicial review. Yes, so by enacting these constitutional amendments, government wanted to carry forward with the land reform program. But what happened? Was that that constitutional amendment was challenged in Shankari Prasad case. Yes, and it led to an ensuing battle between the executive and the people and the judiciary. Yes, so as to strike a balance between fundamental rights and DPSP, because see, the land reform program comes under, once again, government mandate under Article 39B and under Article 39B and Article 39C. It talks about equitable distribution of wealth, and it talks about prevention of concentration of wealth. But they are DPSPs. Yes, they have not been made enforceable by the Constitution. However, the Constitution asks the executive to make laws to implement DPSP. Fine. So the executive made a law to implement DPSP under Article 39B and C through the abolition of zamindari rights, through introduction of land reforms. But in the process, they happen to violate the fundamental right of right to property, and consequently constitutional amendments amendments had to be introduced. Yes, and है ना, तो फिर वही आपको डिस्कस करना है. Basically, the land reforms program led to constitutional amendments. तो ये हुआ है ना, and it led to this ensuing debate between fundamental right and DPSP, which ultimately is settled through the doctrine of basic structure, which was enunciated in Keshwananda Bharti case. Even prior to that, as part of the presidential reference, Kerala Education Bill, you find that Supreme Court came out with the doctrine of harmonious construction. Anyways, है ना, तो ये है. फिर you will talk about you can talk about the 24th Constitutional Amendment Act. Yes, it clarified the power of the Parliament to amend the Constitution, because Article 368 mentioned the procedure of amendment but did not mention does the parliament have the power to amend the constitution or not? Then 25th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1971, and both these are of 1971. It brought in Article 31C, and it brought in Article 31C, which said that, and once again trying to strike this balance, it read that for implementing these two articles, if a law is enacted, it will not be held invalid simply on the ground that it violates Article 14, Article 19 and Article 31 of the Constitution. Yes, and this was accepted. This was accepted as a fine balance between fundamental rights and DPSP by the Supreme Court in Keshwanand Bharti case, when the Supreme Court also enunciated the basic structure doctrine. Yes, and further the constitutional amendment that you will mention is the 44th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1978, which abolished Article 31 and Article 19, Clause 1, Clause F. Basically, they abolished right to property as a fundamental right, and it was made into a legal right under Article 300A of the Constitution. Yes, so to in fact, abhi question kya hai? The question says land reform program led to constitutional amendments. So first, why land reform program? Why rather it led to constitutional amendments? Yes, we can discuss it under the following heads. Yes, you will discuss why land reform led to constitutional amendment and evidence of it. So evidences is the first constitutional amendment, the 25th and the 44th constitutional amendment. Yes, and next would be the implication. The implication is that right to property is no longer a fundamental right, rather it has become a legal right. Plus the Supreme Court in the Presidential Reference Kerala Education Bill enunciated the doctrine of harmonious balance to be struck between fundamental rights and DPSP. What does it mean? If there is an interpretation through which we can validate both the fundamental, uphold the fundamental right while implementing the DPSP provision, that interpretation would be accepted. Yes, so we will try to strike a balance between the two. Yes, and the third, doctrine of basic structure we can talk about. Yes, or this balance that has been struck through Article 31C, which has been accepted as the basic structure of the Constitution. Yes, you can quote Granville-Austin that fundamental right and DPSP both constitute the conscience of the Constitution, and that was achieved, and this land reform law led to this spiraling debate between fundamental right and DPSP, which was settled in favor of a balance between the two, reflecting Granville-Austin's wisdom or his idea that the two represent the soul of the Constitution. Fine, so this all I have discussed. That is how you will go about writing the answer. Next is delineate the key features that have shaped the evolving political landscape in Jammu and Kashmir after 2019. Yes, so basically you have to delineate, you have to identify the key features that have shaped the evolving political landscape, yes, in Jammu and Kashmir after 2019. So basically we have to talk about what and why is the political landscape of J&K post 2019. Yes, now what happened in 2019 was abrogation of Article 370, abrogation of Article 35A, या repeal of Article 35A and enactment of J&K Reorganization Act 2019. Yes, with these two, the special status of J&K, which J&K had enjoyed since its accession to, since the accession of this territory to India. Once the Maharaja Hari Singh signed the instrument of accession, yes, comes to an end. Yes, so whatever was the special status, that they had their own constitution. Yes, there were several protections. The law made by the union would not directly be implemented, would not directly enter into force or would be applicable to the state of J&K. Property rights protected for the residents of J&K. Yes, all such special status comes to an end, and enactment of J&K Reorganization Act 2019, it in fact bifurcated the state into two UTs. Yes, the UT of J&K, which has a legislative assembly, which has only been recently elected. Yes, last year I guess the legislative assembly was elected. And then there is UT of Ladakh, which does not without legislative assembly. In fact, Ladakh has been demanding special status under Schedule 6 of the Constitution. Yes, so this is the first time that a state has been made into a UT. Generally, it is the UTs who are upgraded, who are given greater autonomy as being made part of the federation. However, this is the first time where a state has been bifurcated into two and has been made into a UT, brought under the centralized government control or central administration control. Yes, so this is this is how you find things have happened as far as Jammu and Kashmir. It is in this context briefly we'll discuss the key features. Another key feature, एक तो यही है कि bifurcation of the state into two UTs and it getting downgraded of sorts into a UT. From federal relations with the center, it has been forced into entering into unitary relations with the center. So that is one thing. The second is vis-a-vis the political parties. Yes, so you find that the major political parties have somewhere been weakened in the process, and you find smaller factions arising and they are aligning with BJP. So BJP's political prospect has improved as far as J&K is concerned. Fine. Fine, so that is how we will go about. Let's see how we have attempted here. Yes, so abrogation of Article 370. So basically special status has come to an end, and it was put forward, and the government argument is its ambiguous relation with the union has come to an end and it has been better integrated with the Indian state. Reorganization into two UTs. So you find that reduces regional autonomy, federal autonomy that it used to enjoy. Yes, and it has been brought into a unitary relation with the center. Yes, traditional regional parties like the National Conference and PDP experienced fragmentation, with smaller parties and BJP aligned formations have been on rise. Yes, so the conclusion, these developments highlight a move towards national integration, but at the cost of regional autonomy. The evolving political dynamics underscore challenges in democratic representation and political stability in Jammu and Kashmir. Yes, in fact, yes, that is how you go about writing the answer in this case. Fine, the next question, the last question as part of the 5 compulsory questions, 10 markers each, is how far has been NHRC, National Human Rights Commission, successful in achieving its objective? Basically, it is a question asking us to evaluate, yes, evaluate the effectiveness of NHRC. So evaluate the effectiveness में क्या होगा, both pros and cons are going to be mentioned. अब pros में generally आप क्या mention करोगे, case studies mention कर सकते हो, जो prominent case studies, कोई recent case studies है, तो if you mention that, it gives a very good a good impression to the examiner. Otherwise you have few prominent case studies vis-a-vis the Chakma and Hojong refugees in Arunachal Pradesh. The Supreme Court coming out with a decision that they should be given citizenship status, or they should be given citizenship. That was because NHRC took up that matter. Yes, Devadasi system in southern India that they have highlighted, in Telangana specifically they had highlighted. Yes, there are such case studies which you can mention. The Punjab mass massacre case, which was highlighted post the militancy in Punjab. Yes, there also it was NHRC which demanded, or which recommended rather, that that some money should be provided to the relatives, some monetary relief should be provided to the relatives. Yes, तो इस तरह के कुछ केस स्टडीज़ बता सकते हो, apart from it leading to growing awareness of human rights maybe. Yes, it is expected to conduct research, yes, sponsor research, support research and grow awareness. तो वहाँ पे भी कुछ contribution mention कर सकते हैं. Cons is where you will find that the discussion would dominate. Why have they asked on NHRC? Once again, it is a very popular theme as far as constitutional and non-constitutional bodies. हर साल एक या दो सवाल इस टॉपिक से आते ही हैं. Yes, so this year they've asked NHRC, previously they've asked National Commission for Women, I think so last year only they had asked for National Commission of Minorities, National Commission for Backward Classes, NCST, कुछ भी, CAG, Election Commission of India. They will ask 1 or 2 questions every year from the said topic. So these topics become important. Fine. So of course in that light, and it is the cons which dominate, तो वो mention करेंगे. और यहाँ पे NHRC has been in news also for the past 2 years, 2023 and 2024, where Ganhri has basically denied accreditation to NHRC. Yes, this A-class accreditation to NHRC has been denied by this international society called Ganhri, which raises question as far as how independent, how autonomous, how effective is the functioning of NHRC. तो उस context में आप लिखोगे, yes, and how are you going to introduce? You will introduce by saying that it is an NHRC was constituted to, of course, protect and promote human rights. लेकिन उससे पहले हम लिखेंगे it was constituted because of the NHRC Act 1993, and Government of India enacted this act not out of its complete sovereign will, rather because it was the UN which asked the member nations to constitute, to establish National Human Rights Institution. Yes, so it is in this context in 1993, based on the NHRC Act, we established NHRC. तो वहाँ से introduce कर सकते हो, and then you can evaluate the effectiveness, because ultimately it is just a 10 marker. Yes, and as I told you, it is the, you find that I've mentioned Ganhri has, the Global Alliance of National Human Rights Institution has denied granting A category accreditation to NHRC. तो वो आप mention कर सकते हो अगर आपको ध्यान आ जाए एग्जाम में, तो है ना, always whenever we can write the current development, it is appreciated. और वैसे भी अगर आपने ये क्वेश्चन पेपर पूरा पढ़ लिया होगा, आई होप Yes, as far as section B is concerned, what is the first impression that you get? After reading through the questions of section B, paper 1, what is the impression that you are getting? The impression is that they are, anyways, section B of both paper 1 and 2 are current affairs based, और काफ़ी current context में जो developments है उससे सवाल पूछे गए हैं. तो delimitation exercise है ना, the appointment of election commissioners, yes, काफ़ी इस तरह के questions, yes, the current strains in सेंटर स्टेट रिलेशंस वगैरह काफ़ी सवाल जो भी रिसेंट में है ना चल रहे थे, कास्ट सेंसस, डीलिमिटेशन एक्सरसाइज आई जस्ट मेंशन, तो ऐसे करके ही इन्होंने सवाल पूछ रखे हैं इस बार. हमेशा ही करंट ओरिएंटेशन रहता है एंड दैट ट्रेंड कंटिन्यूज. सो इफ़ वी कैन मेंशन द करंट कंटेक्स्ट इट इज़ वेल एंड गुड. यस, सो व्हाट इज़ एज फार एज द वर्किंग यू फाइंड दैट, या कौन सा जो है critical analysis is that the fact that its recommendations are not binding, it is just a recommendatory body. Therefore, Soli Sorabji, former Attorney General of India, has criticized it as India's a teasing illusion. Fine. फिर एक arbitrary time bar है. Only cases of human rights violation which have happened within 1 year can be brought to the attention of NHRC. Otherwise, if the commission of the act, if the commission of violation happened 1 year prior, then it cannot be brought to the attention of NHRC. Bar on violation, human rights violation by the armed forces. Now it is also one of the primary concerns, because generally human rights violation within the state कौन करेगा? Generally it is the armed forces who indulge in such, है ना. जब कोई मिलिट्री ऑपरेशन वगैरह के कंटेक्स्ट में सिविलियंस ह्यूमन राइट्स आर वायलेटेड, एंड देयरफॉर इट इज़ अ बिग वीकनेस फॉर NHRC and it is criticized as a toothless tiger or a paper tiger in this context. Fine. Also, the judges have been given a prominent role without any definite track record that they would in fact be upholders of human rights. Yes, so you find that in 2019, Center had appointed Justice Arun Kumar Mishra, but he was infamous for for delaying the habeas corpus petitions filed by political prisoners. There is limited role of chairperson in appointment of other members. Yes, the composition of the commission, it is dominated by judiciary rather than having members who are committed to the human rights cause. Lack of sufficient funds, yes, dependency on central government for funds and functionaries, does not have its own staff to investigate complaints. All of these are concerns as far as functioning. So we will conclude once again by highlighting the importance that it is a very important institution to ensure that human rights are respected, protected, and in fact promoted within the nation. And to ensure that India is a rule, is a nation, rule of law is present in, based on a rule of law. India is a nation based on rule of law that we need to have. We need to strengthen these agencies which are to basically hold the executive accountable for human rights violation. Yes. Next is this 20 markers. So we are done with the 5 10 markers. Next is the 20 markers. The first question is, parliamentary committee are indispensable to the legislative process. It provides the opportunity for cross-pollination between the 2 chambers of the parliament. Yes, so how will you go about writing the answer? The question reads, discuss. See, whenever first and foremost, if a question begins with a sentence, your job is to substantiate the statement. Yes, so whenever a question will begin with statement, my first job, here there are two statements, so I have to substantiate the statement. Yes. And then here is this, the question that is asked is discuss. So basically they are saying, asking me to substantiate, they are telling me to elaborate on this idea that yes, parliamentary committees are indispensable to the legislative process. It provides opportunity for cross-pollination, for members of Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha to meet, discuss, deliberate amongst themselves. है ना, तो यही है कि cross-pollination between the two chambers of the parliament. है ना, what are parliamentary committees? There are a number of parliamentary committees. कुछ prominent financial committee is PAC, permanent account committee. You have the estimates committee. Yes, estimates committee. You have पब्लिक अंडरटेकिंग कमेटी है ना, तो इस तरह की बहुत सारी कमिटीज़ है. फिर डिपार्टमेंटल स्टैंडिंग कमिटीज़ है. यस, सो यू हैव अ नंबर ऑफ सच कमिटीज़ दैट एग्जिस्ट. और इनमें फॉर एग्जांपल इन PAC देयर इज़ प्रोविजन ऑफ मेंबरशिप ऑफ बोथ द हाउसेस ऑफ द पार्लियामेंट. तो लोकसभा के भी मेंबर्स प्रेजेंट होते हैं, राज्यसभा के भी मेंबर्स प्रेजेंट होते हैं. फॉर दैट मैटर PAC में बाय कन्वेंशन, in fact it is a member from the opposition who is chosen or elected as the chairperson. So since 1967 a tradition has developed, a convention has developed, जहाँ पे opposition party से के member को chairperson की तौर पे select किया जाता है. If you remember, PAC is also called the friend philosopher guide of the CAG is the friend philosopher guide of PAC for that matter. Yes, anyways, so the question is, the parliamentary committees are indispensable to the legislative process and it provides opportunity for cross pollination between the two chambers of the parliament. तो पहले तो as I told you, जब भी sentence होगा मेरा काम क्या है, substantiate करना. Then I am directly going into looking into the what is the question. The question is just simply discuss. Discuss का मतलब क्या है? Generally it asks me to substantiate the statement, to elaborate on the statement. It is not per se directly asking me to do a critical analysis. But can I write an answer without critical analysis? Wouldn't it be very one-sided answer? So what I will do, I will do critical analysis. But I will do limited critical analysis. मतलब मैं बहुत ज़्यादा elaborate नहीं करूँगी, मैं 2-3 points लिख दिए तो बहुत है. Yes, my answer, substantive portion of my answer is going to be substantiation of these two statements. It is about generally कि they are indispensable. तो मैं I will talk in terms of how good parliamentary committee is, why parliamentary committees are important. On that substantive portion of my answer will be, but I will also mention the challenges, the shortcomings, the issues, the concerns of parliamentary committee. ठीक है, to write balanced answer. That is how you go about. Fine. है ना. और बेहतर आंसर क्या है, हमेशा स्ट्रक्चरिंग पे ध्यान देना है. जितने आप हेड्स और जो क्वेश्चन में हेड्स है उनको नहीं मिस करना है. रेलेवेंट हेड्स निकाल के आंसर लिखोगे उतना बेहतर लिख पाओगे आंसर. Anyways, the parliamentary committee are indispensable to legislative process. ठीक है, तो what are parliamentary committees? I have briefly introduced, है ना. Parliamentary, पहले इतने parliamentary committees हुआ ही नहीं करते थे. Departmental parliamentary committees have come into existence only since 1993 onwards. उससे पहले departmental है ना standing parliamentary committees नहीं हुआ करती थी. In fact, parliamentary committees में भी standing parliamentary committees and ad hoc. जो standing है वो permanent है ना. They exist on year to year basis all year round. और जो एडहॉक है फॉर द टाइम बीइंग विज़-अ-वी अ पर्टिकुलर इशू दैट दे माइट बी एस्टैब्लिश्ड एंड देन दे विल डिस्पर्स. ठीक है. पार्लियामेंट्री कमिटीज़ आर ऑल्सो ऑफ 6 टाइप. उसमें फाइनेंशियल 3 कमिटीज़ हैं एंड डिपार्टमेंटल कमिटीज़ दैट वी नो ऑफ. तो ठीक है, this is parliamentary committee. I'll give maybe a brief introduction of parliamentary committee. They are indispensable to the legislative process. Why are they? Now this is the statement I have to substantiate. So I will have to tell why are they indispensable to the legislative process. Why? Because point number 1, Parliament is a highly unwieldy body. It is a very large body comprising many members. And presently the Lok Sabha comprises 543 members. So it is not possible that within the House of Parliament you discuss all the matters in great detail. Okay, so it is unwieldy as a body, too big a body. Then the MPs are not necessarily experts. Then there is also time crunch and expertise are also limited. तो MPs are laymen and then there is time crunch. तो ये 3 reason है. इस वजह से क्या होता है, the parliamentary matters for detailed analysis, bills for detailed analysis are put, or issues for detailed analysis are given to the parliamentary committees who will in detail deliberate upon the issue and come out with a nuanced expert opinion. ठीक है. तो वो एक nuanced डिटेल में एक्सपर्ट से कंसल्ट करके एक nuanced ओपिनियन के साथ बाहर आएंगे. दूसरा वाई. ठीक है. तो मैंने 3 तो बता दिया. क्यों? अनवील्डी एज अ बॉडी है पार्लियामेंट, दी MPs आर ले पर्सन, लेमैन एंड टाइम क्रंच है. तो इस वजह से हर मैटर cannot be handled at the level of parliament. They need to be delegated to the parliamentary committees for expert या nuanced discussion, nuanced deliberation. दूसरा why? Because at the level of, if parliament में discussion हो रहा है, at times going for a non-partisan approach becomes very difficult. Yes, or bipartisan या non-partisan approach becomes very difficult. Why? Because there is media glare as far as proceeding. So political parties cannot compromise. Yes, they have to take. Opposition will play the role of the opposition and the treasury bench will play the role of the treasury bench. But within these closed doors, है ना, parliamentary committees जब मिलती हैं तो then they can go for a non-partisan approach, a detailed discussion for the national interest of the nation. तो एक non-partisan neutral है ना approach can be adopted when such discussions take place behind the closed doors rather than in the open parliament house. Fine. Under media glare. तो इस वजह से they become indispensable to the legislative process and it provides an opportunity for cross-pollination between the 2 chambers of the parliament. Yes, as I told you, the membership of several such committees in fact includes membership of both the houses. So it allows the members of both the houses to come, interact, exchange their views, deliberate and build consensus. Yes, so that is how parliamentary committees become very, very important. Parliamentary committee is indispensable in the parliamentary system. Why? Because it is also very important क्योंकि सिर्फ a PAC is going to look into the CAG report है ना, तो they are also going, they are not just doing a detailed scrutiny as to the bills that are being put forward by the government, but they are also there to hold government or hold executive accountable. So they help, they assist the legislature to hold executive accountable, which is the distinguishing feature of parliamentary form of government. And without this assistance, it would not be possible for the legislature to actually get into the nuances of the government functioning and hold the executive accountable. So all these points you have to write. Yes, and then we will discuss some of the challenges. Challenges kya hai? Basically, Abhi, in fact, there has been a lot of highlighting over the past 2 years. This year also there have been articles that have appeared in the newspaper in the month of May, June, July, which highlighted that how you find that the parliamentary committees are being sidelined. As part of 18th Lok Sabha, there has been a substantive decline in the businesses being referred, bills being referred to the parliamentary committee. And this decline has been an ongoing trend which fits into the decline of parliament theses. Anyways, तो ये कुछ challenges भी mention करेंगे. Let's see how we have gone about writing this answer. Yes, discuss the importance. Yes. As I've told you, substantiate statement 1, substantiate statement 2, then give the challenges. So basically that is the broad approach. Abhi dekhte hain. To discuss the importance of parliamentary committee in India's legislative process, begin by explaining their role in enhancing legislation through detailed scrutiny and expert consultation. Explore how they contribute to democratic deliberation and accountability. And finally analyze the challenges that the committees face. जबकि discuss है लेकिन फिर भी challenges, balanced answer लिखना है. Conclude with continued relevance in promoting inclusive and transparent government. Yes, by reiterating the significance, once again you conclude. So in fact there's a statement by former US President Woodrow Wilson. He had once remarked, "It is not far from the truth to say that Congress in session is Congress on public exhibition. Yes, while Congress in committee rooms is Congress at work." So this sums up our discussion that yes, कि open में जब deliberation होगा तो it is more for the people, it is more as a spectacle for the people. Party positions को strictly abide करेंगे. Yes, लेकिन जब रूम्स में चले जाते हैं तो ट्रू डेलिब्रेशन कर सकते हैं. सो कांग्रेस इन सेशन इज कांग्रेस ऑन पब्लिक एग्जिबिशन एंड कांग्रेस इन कमिटी वर्क कमिटी रूम्स इज कांग्रेस एट वर्क. नाउ डिस्क्राइब हाउ कमिटीज फैसिलिटेट डिटेल्ड एग्जामिनेशन ऑफ लेजिस्लेशन, एक्सपर्ट इनपुट वगैरह. फाइन, आई हैव डिस्कस्ड ऑल दिस. Yes, budgetary oversight, policy impact, you can quote scholars like Granville Austin who emphasize on the importance of parliamentary committees in holding the executive accountable. Zoya Hassan, she has spoken in the recent years about the decline as far as reference of business to these parliamentary committees, despite the significant role that they play. तो उनको highlight कर सकते हैं. All this I have discussed, you can go through the content. तो challenges में क्या है? Political interference, delays in reports, lack of reinforcement. वो सिर्फ एक report submit कर सकते हैं, उनके पास कोई enforcement mechanism नहीं है. Percentage of the bill referred to the parliament has drastically declined from 71% in 15th Lok Sabha to 27% in 16th and around 13% only for the ongoing 18th Lok Sabha. In fact, this bill revoking Article 370 and creating 2 UTs out of the state of J&K did not go through a parliamentary committee. Yes.
Every UPSC topper has one thing in common: a powerful optional subject that gave them the edge in mains. It's not just syllabus coverage, it's about building depth, precision and scoring power that sets you apart when ranks are decided. That's exactly what the Vision IAS Optional Classroom Program 2026 delivers. Immersive classes for crystal clear concepts, intensive answer writing practice with expert feedback, dedicated mentorship to sharpen focus and strategy, refined study material trusted by toppers year after year. Whether you are starting fresh or aiming for the final breakthrough, this program transforms your optional into your rank booster. With Vision IAS, you never prepare alone. You prepare with the institute trusted by toppers across India. New batches for anthropology, geography, political science and international relations and sociology begins from 18th September. Don't just prepare. Dominate mains with your optional. To know more or register, visit our website or call us on the given numbers.
Fine. Next question that we have, examine the constitutional provisions and nature of advisory jurisdiction of the Supreme Court of India. Once again, क्या है context, क्या है इस सवाल का? Why have they asked a question on advisory jurisdiction of Supreme Court? Yes. Advisory jurisdiction generally एक static idea है, उससे हम इतना सवाल expect भी नहीं करते. But why they have asked it here? Because it was very much in news. Why it was in news? Because in April, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the government of Tamil Nadu in the governor of Tamil Nadu case. ठीक है, तो उसमें the governor N. Ravi had not given assent to 10 bills which had been passed and then repassed by the state legislative assembly of Tamil Nadu. So it is in this context the state of Tamil Nadu approached the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court upheld the view of the state of Tamil Nadu and asking the governor to play his constitutional role. In fact, the Supreme Court narrowed down the discretion of the governor which the governor was enjoying under Article 200. ठीक है, तो Article 200 basically deals with what are the options that the governor has. Once the bill reaches the governor, he should give assent, he can withhold assent, he can ask the legislative assembly to reconsider the bill, or he can send it to the president for his approval. ठीक है, तो उस context में उन्होंने कहा कि the governor only has 3 options, yes, and not the 4th option of sending the bill to the president as such. तो इस तरह का जो ये judgment आया था which upheld the views of the or narrowed down the discretionary power of the governor or asked the governor to act as a constitutional head and not as a mere agent of the center. So it is in this context our president Draupadi Murmu, yes, she put forward a presidential reference on the said issue. Yes, on the issue of what is the discretion of the governor under Article 200 and Article 201. Yes, so it is in this context है ना, और उसको advisory jurisdiction के through उन्होंने Supreme Court से पूछा है their legal opinion. She has sought the legal opinion of the Supreme Court on the issue once again. So it is in this context there was a lot of discussion. ठीक है कि is because the Supreme Court has come out with a judgment rather than challenging the judgment through the adjudicatory pathway. है ना कि Supreme Court ने judgment दिया, but now you can challenge the judgment of the Supreme Court. The union could have done that. Yes, could have filed a curative petition or a revisory petition, whatever. Rather than taking the adjudicatory route, the center decided to in fact go through the advisory route. So rather than raising an adjudication, taking the adjudicatory route under Article 141, they went through the route under Article 143, seeking presidential reference, seeking advice of the Supreme Court. So this has raised concern, is the union trying to indirectly influence the judiciary? Fine, so it is in this context the question has been asked. Evaluate your answer. तो क्या है सवाल, फिर से पढ़ लेते हैं. Examine the constitutional provision and nature of advisory jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. तो सवाल है ना क्या है, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल प्रोविजन क्या है, तो आर्टिकल 143 आपको डिस्कस करना पड़ेगा है ना. इट प्रोवाइड्स फॉर एडवाइजरी जुरिस्डिक्शन ऑफ द सुप्रीम कोर्ट एंड अंडर 2 circumstances vis-a-vis pre-constitutional treaty or an accord, pre-constitutional treaty or an accord, if the union seeks advisory opinion of the Supreme Court necessarily has to give his advisory opinion. And the second is in case of a legal matter which has arisen, a legal matter or a fact which has arisen or is about to arise. Yes, so it is in this context also the union can approach, the president can approach the Supreme Court for its legal opinion. But in the second case, the Supreme Court does have the right to deny giving such advice or sharing its legal opinion with the union government. Yes, so you discussed that. And then the nature of advisory jurisdiction. So article 143, the nature also we have somewhere discussed कि यही है कि कहाँ पे binding है, कहाँ पे non-binding है for the Supreme Court. And then we will have to critically examine it in terms of evaluate your answer with the relevant examples. The relevant example I have told you, the recent most example यही है. And उसके अलावा भी previously 15 other times, and over more than 70 years that the president has raised concerns to the Supreme Court under Article 143. So that needs to be discussed. Yes. Fine. So the constitutional provision we have mentioned. Yes, now nature of advisory jurisdiction, तो वहाँ पे critically examine करते हुए concerns whether the Supreme Court is bound to express its opinion, not in every case. Yes, so the court's discretion to refuse advisory opinions on hypothetical or political matters. Also, if the reference questions are not clearly framed, the Supreme Court can refuse to express its legal opinion. Concerns whether the executive might try to influence judiciary by raising precedential reference when the route of adjudication may not be available. As I was telling you, the union this time around has chosen to not take the adjudicatory route and rather has reached the Supreme Court through the route of Article 143. The Constituent Assembly debate में भी ये concern express हुआ था. Several members had expressed concerns that such an advisory jurisdiction could be misused for political ends. Ultimately, the framers retained it, recognizing its utility in resolving a constitutional impasse beyond the scope of ordinary legislation. Okay, it continues to be useful, so they decided to retain it. To prevent misuse, it was agreed and later codified under Article 145 clause 3 that presidential reference must be heard by a bench of at least 5 judges. So it is a precautionary step mentioned in the constitution itself so that the advisory jurisdiction route is not misused by the executive. In fact, next question, whether the opinion expressed would be binding on the executive. No, it is not binding on the executive. It does not take away executive's independence. Yes, the executive can maintain its sovereignty, is consultative and not adjudicative. Whether they amount to setting precedents for the court. So executive पे तो नहीं binding है, but will they set precedents for the court? The advice tendered under Article 143 do not amount to binding precedents, though they can contain significant persuasive value. तो ये binding है ना, ये they do not also contain, they are not, they do not set binding precedents, but they can contain significant persuasive values. Yes, but nevertheless, there have been instances where the court has appeared to treat such opinions as authoritative. Yes, in Vasant Lal Mangal Bhai Sajjanwala versus State of Bombay case, the court relied on the advisory opinion rendered in Delhi Laws Act to adjudicate the question of excessive legislative delegation. And there are other such examples. काफ़ी examples हैं ऐसे. For example, I was telling you presidential reference Kerala Education Bill. The Supreme Court came out with the doctrine of harmonious construction. And you find that this doctrine has been several times since then been reiterated by the Supreme Court as far as fundamental rights and DPSP is concerned. तो you find ऐसा होता है कि है ना, ठीक है, it is not necessary कि legal precedent set करे, but more often than not, because it has significant persuasive value, तो the future judgments do take a note. In fact, another prominent example can be in 1998, there was a presidential reference which is famously known as the third judges case. ठीक है, उसी में Supreme Court came out with this collegium system, and the number of members whom the CGI will consult has grown, the process has been clarified कि written में होगा consultation, all that. So that was also elaborated as part of the presidential reference which developed into the system which is followed till now for appointment of the Supreme Court judges. So legally it is not necessary that they set the precedents, but you find that since they have significant persuasive values, the future judgments do pay or are cognizant of the presidential reference में जो opinion express किया गया है. So that is the issue, and there is this concern है ना कि in case of the Tamil Nadu, so I have told you that maybe the executive is taking an alternative route because now this governor और जो position of governor है, that becomes a major hotspot for center-state relation, a difficult area for center-state relation. Center wants to use the position of governor as its agent, as a means to control the state, especially the opposition ruled state. तो वहाँ पे जब Supreme Court upheld the views of state of Tamil Nadu, it was the union which got affected. Yes, union's powers which got hampered, and it is in this context they have taken this alternative route. Yes, फिर Kaveri Water Dispute Tribunal का भी reference है. Fine, we have mentioned a few other references as well. Yes, examples as well, you can go through it. Skara का example I have already given. Therefore, while, तो अभी क्या है ramification as far as the governor's case is concerned, है ना, अभी तक जो समझ में आ रहा है, probably the April 8th judgment is going to be final and binding. However, further clarity on it might emerge through this presidential reference. Abhi judgment, it is believed that yes, fine. So this is the issue as far as this question is concerned. This question on examine the constitutional provision as well as the nature of the advisory jurisdiction of the Supreme Court of India was asked in context of the ongoing battle between center and state over the position of governor, role of the governor. So उसी context में इस answer को आपको लिखना है. Fine. The next question, the recent developments in Indian politics has not eroded the true spirit of federalism in India. क्या है सवाल? The recent developments in Indian politics has not eroded the true spirit of federalism in India. So basically, चलो ठीक है, critically examine the statement with help of relevant example. So you have to do critical critical examination. फिर से sentence देखते हैं. The recent developments in Indian politics has not eroded. So recent development in Indian politics has not eroded, it says, the true spirit of federalism in India. So first and foremost, we will have to identify what is the true spirit of federalism in India. What is this true spirit of federalism in India? Yes, and then identify the recent developments as far as center state relation is concerned and how has it affected. ठीक है, तो हमें तो critically examine करना है, तो it is saying not, it has not eroded, so you can say it has eroded, वही है, evaluate करेंगे, है ना. तो ज़्यादा हम अभी critically examine बोला है, सिर्फ examine होता तो हम neutrally examine करते, critically मतलब हम negative की तरफ ज़्यादा ध्यान देंगे. Yes, so we are going to evaluate it from the perspective that yes, it has eroded. Yes, the greater focus would be how it has eroded the spirit of federalism in India. So what can be the recent developments? अच्छा चलो, let's see first the true spirit of federalism in India. First and foremost, spirit of federalism क्या है generally? That both center and state draw their powers from a written constitution, है ना. State is not dependent on center for its power, rather both have their source of power in the constitution, which needs to be written, plus there is an independent judiciary which can act as an arbitrator of a dispute between center and state. Yes, so constitution is the source of power for both center and state, plus independent judiciary as the arbitrator of dispute. यही है ना. तो both center and state draw their source of power from a constitution. The constitution should be written and there should be an independent arbitrator in the form of judiciary, federal judiciary. तो ये तीनों condition है as far as a country being called a federation. तो अब इंडियन ट्रू, अब इंडियन स्पिरिट ऑफ फेडरेशन क्या है हमारा, है कोऑपरेटिव, और आज के दिन चलो कॉम्पिटिटिव फेडरलिज्म. यस, सो अनलाइक this is versus dual polity. Yes, so unlike the watertight compartment of center and state envisaged under dual polity, the emphasis under cooperative federalism is on interdependence between center and state. है ना. तो कोऑपरेटिव फेडरेशन है, इस वजह से यू फाइंड दैट जनरली द सेंटर, है ना, is supposed to act like the elder brother. Center has been given relatively more power, especially in the domain of, say, the financial relation, while the state is the primary administrator of the schemes of the center. ठीक है, तो interdependence envisaged है rather than watertight compartments between center and state, yeah, of center and state. Yes, now let's see, and we have also brought in the element of competitive federalism, which has been especially emphasized, yes, with establishment of, say, नीति आयोग, है ना, और वो जो indices के through rank करते हैं state को, वैसे भी on the health indicator, on the education indicator, on the GDP indicator, है ना, state GDP indicator, etc. तो a sense of competition so that we can give our best and learn from the other country, other states who are performing better. Fine. So this is the true spirit कि हमारे यहाँ federation है plus cooperative federation which emphasizes on interdependence plus the competitive federation for the entire union to progress together. Fine, so that is the idea. Now let's critically examine the recent statement with help of relevant examples. तो center state, एक तो article 356 होता है, ठीक है, जो ये ट्रेडिशनल हो गया मानो, लेकिन ठीक है, precedence rule has been imposed in, for example, मणिपुर, है ना, recently मणिपुर में impose हुआ था. तो how does it affect? Does it erode the federal spirit? Yes, role of governor, अभी हम वही डिस्कस कर रहे थे, तो उस पर आप बात करोगे, रोल ऑफ गवर्नर. उसके अलावा आप क्या बात करोगे? यू कैन टॉक अबाउट द न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी, यू कैन टॉक अबाउट नीट, यू कैन टॉक अबाउट GST काउंसिल, है ना, नीति आयोग, ठीक है, ये सब कोई बहुत पुराने नहीं है, 2015 में ही एस्टैब्लिश हुआ था नीति आयोग, तो रीसेंट. फाइन, सो यू कैन अकॉर्डिंगली नाउ विथ दीज इश्यूज इवैल्यूएट how have they affected center state relations. Basically it is not a very, it is from traditional aspect of the, है ना, traditional question है ये. Of course the examples, if we can cite recent examples it would be better. You have to just examine the statement with help of relevant examples. Recent development in Indian politics has not eroded the true spirit of, तो a recent development, new education policy, the 3 language formula, उस पे जो debate चल रहा है between the state of Tamil Nadu and the central government, the new education policy which was put forth in 2020. Yes, so this has been, the linguistic issue has been going on, तो वो उस पे बात कर सकते हैं. NEET, once again an issue between the Tamil Nadu government which does not want to adopt NEET, national eligibility, entrance eligibility test for medical students. Yes, then you have the GST council, though GST council gives all the states equal voting rights, and for any decision to be taken, you find that it requires 3/4 votes in support. Here the center is given 1/3 votes, while 2/3 voting votes are distributed between the state. But GST council के concern में, context में क्या concern है? The bigger states feel that the smaller states might join with the center and affect the sovereignty of the bigger states to take decisions for themselves as far as taxed laws are concerned, या GST is concerned. So that is the concern. फिर you have Article 356, the precedence rule. How does it tilt the balance in favor of the center? You have to discuss role of governor, very, very controversial, especially with governors like N. Ravi. Yes, it has been quite in news. So you will discuss all that and how it has affected, siding more towards how it has negatively affected, in fact, the federal relations in case of India. Fine, so constitutional framework क्या है, political dynamics क्या है, recent developments, argument supporting the continuity की नहीं हमारे यहाँ federal spirit इतना भी harm नहीं हुआ है, and then giving evidences of centralizing tendencies and finally offer a balanced perspective. Yes, the Niti Ayog is an example of cooperative federalism as such. Yes, competitive and cooperative federalism. Yes, you can go through SR Bomai case. They all highlighted the importance of maintaining this balance as far as or checking the erosion of federalism. Yes, centralizing tendencies. And you can conclude the spirit of federalism remains intact but contested. While there are centralizing trends, legal safeguards and regional political assertion ensure that federal system adapts rather than erodes, embodying both cooperation and contestation. Fine. The next question, I hope you have got an idea as to how to write these answers. Next is enunciate the impediments of women's participation in local governance in the process of political decentralization. So what is the impediment to women's participation in local governance in the process of political decentralization? Yes, impediments, elucidate होगा ये, enunciate, अच्छा enunciate the impediments to women participation. तो ये तो सीधा सवाल है. Yes, how will you go about writing? First you will discuss what is the legal provision for या constitutional mandate for women participation in the process of political decentralization. Political decentralization मतलब PRIs and ULBs. I hope now the question has really opened up to you. Yes, so what is the legal provision? Why women participation is important? Yes, and then however there are impediments. Yes, what are these impediments? Why do they exist? Because of patriarchy, है ना? So women are not allowed to participate even if they are elected, है ना? पति सरपंच phenomena है. Yes, there are several impediments. Education barriers है. आज के दिन digital governance है, but digital literacy amongst women is the lowest. Yes, women do not own wealth or capital as much. So for them, political participation, which is a very expensive exercise, becomes very difficult to undertake. Political parties are also reluctant to give seats to women, and because of the patriarchal attitude, they are not, it is considered unlikely that they would win. Yes, despite these impediments, ये impediments बताओ, उसके बाद बताओ, however, despite these impediments, women have had good performance. And their performance, despite these impediments, there has been good performance of women in PRIs and ULBs. So you can give various data, है ना, बहुत case studies वगैरह हैं, वो बता सकते हो कि which show that yes, women have had good performance of women. Yes, they will take up the social issues, है ना, the sanitation issue, water availability issue, all such issues. Yes, that women take up, तो उनका social impact है. Yes, girl child पे, nutrition पे इनका ज़्यादा ध्यान है. More effective in their policy making approach है. फिर you have these case studies which है ना, रुडोल्फो वगैरह को आप साइट करके लिखोगे ये. Rudolph and Rudolph भी है इसमें. So you cite all them and write the answer. Yes, and so you will conclude, and you will conclude by suggesting way forward. So despite impediments, if women have had such good performance, it makes a case for removing these impediments. What is to be done to remove these impediments? Yes, so in this format of a debate sort, you will write this answer. It is a 20 marker straightforward answer, and directly from the notes for that matter that has been asked. Yes, 73rd 74th Amendment Act, 1/3 reservation, rationale क्या है, why women are provided reservation, what are the impediments, and despite these impediments, women have good performance, and therefore we need to encourage women participation further. And you can give data like 1.4 million women have got elected, I guess. Yes, कुछ states हैं जहाँ पे 50% reservation भी दे दिया है, and all those figures, yes, and out of 3.1 million elected members at the local level, 1.4 are women. So all that ideas, all those data you can give. Fine. Patriarchal norms, gender biases, proxy representation hinder women's political agency. Yes, highlight resource constraint, political networks. ये direct notes से सवाल है, बिल्कुल सीधा साधा, है ना. दलित perspective वगैरह भी था, ये 20 मार्कर एकदम सीधा simple सवाल है, which you should be in a position to write. Fine. I think so you can go through the model answer of sorts that we have provided. Next question is, caste remains a vital axis for political mobilization in India. Yes, once again a straightforward question. Yes, there is the caste factor which is very important for political mobilization. Yes, your caste becomes your first direct audience for a electoral candidate. Yes, and therefore vote bank politics hai. Yes, caste, role of caste rising in Indian politics in post-Congress phase. तो 1967 जहाँ state level पे decline हो गया था, तो वहाँ पे you find that rise of caste बेस्ड मोबिलाइजेशन, और उस समय दिस अजगर खाम जो कोalitions फॉर्म हुई थी. उसके बाद 19 पोस्ट द मंडल फेज है ना. You find that once VP Singh government implemented the recommendation of the second OBC commission, you find that single caste based mobilization, single caste raising their demands for reservation etc. Yes, so वो सारा आपको लिखना है. Caste means vital. In fact उसमें रजनी कोठारी का view कि there is not just politicization of caste but casticization of politics. In fact, it has played an important role. He is appreciative of the role that caste has played in sustaining democracy. So फिर योगेंद्र यादव का viewpoint and identity plus politics and how he associates caste based mobilization to the second and the third democratic upsurge in India. तो वो सारे व्यूज़ आपको इसमें लिखने हैं. यस, नेक्स्ट अभी वही है, करंट बेस्ड क्वेश्चन है, करंट अफेयर का कंटेक्स्ट है. हाउ वुड द कास्ट सेंसस एड्रेस द एस्पिरेशंस ऑफ द पीपल. सो 2027 वी आर एक्सपेक्टेड टू हैव अ decadal census, so which was supposed to happen in 2021. It has been delayed by 6 years, and 2026 we are expected to have this census, decadal census. But this time around, based on the demand by the opposition India bloc, as well as otherwise also, there has been pressure built on the government to carry out a caste census. ठीक है, 2011 में एक सोशो इकोनॉमिक कास्ट सेंसस हुआ था, बट इट वॉज है ना वो सेपरेट हुआ था फ्रॉम द डेकेडियल सेंसस. बट दिस टाइम अलॉन्ग विथ द रेगुलर एवरी 10 ईयर जो सेंसस होता है उसके साथ क्लब होके कास्ट सेंसस भी होगा, वेयर बाय the enumeration will not be just of ST and SCs but of the various caste groups, so that the relevant figures as far as what is the situation, socio-economic situation of the various caste groups comes to the fore, and एक data based information arise होगा. Why it is very important? Because the last such caste census happened prior to India's independence in 1930. In fact, the 27% reservation that we provide to OBCs, which was recommended by BP Mandal Commission in 1978, you find उसका basis क्या है? उसका basis भी 1930 caste census है. So for all such issues you need, है ना. और आज के दिन क्या हो रहा है कि there are even the intermediate और है ना intermediate castes demanding reservation. So you have to look into these demands to readjust our affirmative policies and reservation policies. There is need for current data so that an evidence based policy making, data based policy making can be undertaken. Yes, so this is the idea. So how would caste census address the aspirations? तो इसमें पॉजिटिव पूछा है, लेकिन आप इसमें चैलेंजेस भी बताओगे. यस, तो हाउ कास्ट रिमेन्स अ वाइटल टूल फॉर मोबिलाइजेशन, है ना. तो यू विल टॉक कास्ट बिकम्स द फर्स्ट ऑडियंस. यस, वोट बैंक पॉलिटिक्स के लिए इम्पॉर्टेंट है ना. पोस्ट कांग्रेस फेज 1967 यू हैव दीज कास्ट कोalitions दैट इमर्ज्ड, एंड पोस्ट मंडल फेज यू फाइंड singular caste groups demanding for their demanding action for their welfare. उसके बाद you can give the views of Rajni Kothari, Yogendra Yadav. Yes, casticization of politics, and Yogendra Yadav's view of democratic upsurge, how does he associate with it, plus identity plus politics. Yes, now how would caste census address the aspiration of the people? तो ये इंट्रोडक्शन बताओगे आप कि हाँ है ना, फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम सिंस 1930 अब कास्ट सेंसस अलॉन्ग विथ द डेकेडियल सेंसस इज गोइंग टू बी कंडक्टेड. द लास्ट सच सेंसस है ना, वो सारा जो भी 2011 में एक सोशो इकोनॉमिक कास्ट सेंसस, बट इट वाज नॉट क्लब्ड विद डेकेडियल सेंसस. ऑल दैट यू स्पीक why the government is taking this decision, how it will address the aspiration for data based policy making, all such things. But then you will also discuss the challenges as far as undertaking the caste census, because caste in India बहुत ज़्यादा डाइवर्स है ना, और बहुत मल्टीपल कास्ट ग्रुप्स हैं, तो उन सब का है ना, देर आर मल्टीप्लिसिटी ऑफ कास्ट, सो द feasibility of coming out with a data which makes a sense becomes very difficult. So there is administrative difficulty, technical difficulty as far as undertaking this caste census. Fine, so this is how you will go about the answer. रजनी कोठारी, योगेंद्र यादव, डेमोक्रेटिक अपसर्ज जिससे एसोसिएटेड है, वो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट है. यस, पोटेंशियल ऑफ yes, what are the risk of social fragmentation, politicization of data, technical challenges in accurately classifying the caste categories. Yes, caste census though is essential tool for democratization, for social equity, but it must be part of larger strategy of social reforms to ensure inclusivity and unity in India's diverse society. Fine. Next question that we have. There is a debate on the procedure of appointment of Chief Election Commissioner and Election Commissioners of Election Commission of India. ये भी एक direct सवाल है. Yes, this was much in news in 2023, and since then, in fact, it is part of the mainstream notes that we will write on Election Commission of India, because as far as Election Commission of India, appointment of the election commissioners is a major issue. Now first, Article 324 provides for the office of Election Commission of India, and this very office, this very article which provides for appointment of the election commissioners, yes, or the office of the chief election of the Election Commission of India, the Article 324 clause 1 itself, by providing security of tenure through through removal of chief election commissioner only in the same way as the Supreme Court judge is removed, seeks to ensure independence of this office. See, basically you start by saying that Article 324 provides for this office, and since this office plays a crucial role in ensuring free and fair election, its independence is pivotal, it cannot be compromised with, it is of extreme importance, so much so that Article 324 clause 1 itself provides a security of tenure to the election commissioners. Yes, however, you find that despite an elaborate provision under Article 324 providing for the independence of the election commissioner, however, the manner of appointment raises concerns as far as their neutrality is concerned, because they are to be appointed, or they are appointed by the president based on the recommendation of his COM. Yes, the constitution did make a provision saying that he is to be appointed by the president based on the law enacted by the parliament, but the parliament has made no such law to make provision for making the appointment for the appointment process of the election commissioner and the chief election commissioner. Consequently, he is simply appointed by the president on the aid and advice of his COM, which means that the executive, since they are going to appoint these commissioners, they might be in a state of obligation to the executive, raising questions about the neutrality of their office. Yes, so this is the concern, and it is in this context Anup Beniwal had filed a PIL in 2015 in the Supreme Court to demanding that the Supreme Court elaborate the manner of appointment of the election commission. So in this case, in 2023, Supreme Court came out with a judgment, yes, based on, say, the recommendation of the Law Commission under the 255 fifth report on electoral reform, Dinesh Goswami committee report, which had suggested that the election commissioners should be appointed through a committee comprising the PM, the leader of opposition, and the CGI, to ensure independence of the committee as far as appointment of election commissioners are concerned. However, the central government in the very year 2023 came out with, enacted a new law which would effectively dilute the judgment of the Supreme Court. Yes, so on that idea you will go about writing this answer. Yes, in this context, we can also mention about the concerns raised as far as neutrality of the Office of Election Commission has been raised by the opposition. Yes, under the issue of vote theft. ठीक है, तो there is an allegation. We don't know how true it is, not true it is. We will not take up any political position. But yes, fact of the matter is, allegations have been made, concerns have been raised vis-a-vis vote theft. Once again, highlighting that maybe the neutrality of this office is affected. Fine, तो वो पूरा discussion आपको लिखना है. Start with constitutional provision. फिर अनूप बेनीवाल में ने PIL फाइल किया, उसमें सुप्रीम कोर्ट का जजमेंट क्या था, क्या प्रोविजन बनाया सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने. उसके बाद पार्लियामेंट ने एक लॉ एनैक्ट किया है. यस, एंड दिस लॉ इफेक्टिवली नलिफाइज दिस जजमेंट बिकॉज देर इज वन स्क्रीनिंग. अब इसमें 2 कमेटी क्रिएट कर दिया है. द लॉ दैट हैज़ बीन एनैक्टेड बाय द पार्लियामेंट, one is the screening committee which is going to be headed by the Minister of Law and Justice, and it will have 2 other members not below the rank of Secretary to Government of India, and they will screen, they will provide a list of 5 candidates to be evaluated or to be chosen by the final committee. तो एक screening committee and फिर एक appointment committee. Appointment committee will comprise of the Prime Minister, the leader of opposition. Yes, the CGI is not there, and 1 minister who is to be appointed by the Prime Minister. ठीक है, तो वो 3-member committee होगा that will make the appointment. Also, that appointment committee can go beyond the list provided by the screening committee as well. But effectively, by taking CGI out, वहाँ पे क्या है, majority of the government in the appointment committee has been ensured. और अगर if the Lok Sabha is dissolved, then the leader of opposition will not be present. Then you find that the Prime Minister along with the minister, one of the minister can appoint the election commissioner. तो वही है, neutrality has been questioned, और अब neutrality more so is under scrutiny under the allegation of vote theft. ठीक है. Best international practices world over से भी हम कुछ recommendation कर सकते हैं. Yes, so this is how you will go about. इसी को बताना है आपको. Yes, multi-stakeholder process, judicial participation, fixed tenures. Proposed reforms like creation of a search committee, fixed non-renewable tenures, parliamentary consultation to improve impartiality and transparency in the process. Yes, and conclusion में you will emphasize the role of the Office of Election Commission of India in conducting free, fair election, and without which India cannot claim itself to be a representative democracy. Yes, as a liberal democracy. Fine, that is how. तो वो भी एक simple question था for that matter. So in fact question number 7 जो है quite approachable है. Yes, कहीं ना कहीं direct notes से ही है ये question. Fine, next is decision to conduct population census 2027 has opened the debate on delimitation in India. Yes, तो वही caste census is linked with the population census. तो इसी context में फिर से एक सवाल है, क्या है? The decision to conduct population census 2027 has opened a debate on delimitation in India. Once again, this was a major discussion that was going around in the newspapers. Yes, I think so in May, yes, in April, May, June, उस समय ना ये काफ़ी न्यूज़ में चल रहा था. एंड काफ़ी न्यूज़पेपर में आर्टिकल्स आते थे. तो इफ़ यू वर रीडिंग योर न्यूज़पेपर्स यू शुड नॉट हैव हैड अ प्रॉब्लम in attempting this question. Yes, so what is it? The decision to conduct population census. Why? Census को आपको लिंक करना है delimitation exercise से. तो generally क्या है constitution का provision that every time a census is undertaken, yes, there would be a delimitation of the constituencies, because how are the constituencies through which MPs है ना are elected how are they है ना how are they delineated? They are delineated on the basis of proportionality of the population. Each territorial constituency within the state and across the nation should represent almost proportional population. है ना. तो ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि एक टेरिटोरियल कॉन्स्टिट्यूंसी 10,000, एक MP is representing 10,000 people, another MP is representing maybe 30,000 people. So that should not happen. All MPs should represent almost say 25,000 people each, whatever it is. है ना. तो there has to be proportionality of representation across constituencies within the state and across the nation. So that would mean that every time a population census is done, the constituencies are delineated once again. And generally every 10 years the census was conducted in India or has been conducted in India, and therefore every 10 years the delimitation exercise would be undertaken. However, it was through the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act, if I am not mistaken. Yes, yes, you find that for the first time the delimitation was frozen in 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act in 1976. The delimitation of constituency was frozen at the 1971 level. ठीक है, for 25 years. Fine. Why it was done? So as to incentivize or so as to not punish the southern states who had undertaken population control measures by losing their number of seats in the parliament, and to ensure that they are not disincentivized into population control measures. Fine. Further, in the year 2000, you find that once again, through the 2001, through the 84th Constitutional Amendment Act, the constituencies, delimitation of constituency was once again frozen for the next 25 years. फिर एक 87th Constitutional Amendment Act भी था, उसके through the delimitation of constituency at the state level was readjusted based on 2001 census. ठीक है, तो at the state level तो readjustment हो गया था based on 2001 census, but at the national level है ना, then basically number of seats for each state has remained static since 1976 within the state. Readjustment of constituency based on 2001 population has taken place, and it has remained static in terms of the number of constituencies per state since 1971. ठीक है. Now this time around, because 24th था वो 25 years के लिए था. Yes, so you find that this time around when the decadal census is going to be conducted in 2026, yes, this census that is going to be conducted, in 2027, you find that after that there will arise this need for delimitation of constituencies once again. So now once again it has become a matter of concern. Why? Because the southern states which have limited their population growth, they might be punished. है ना, अगर proportionality of population के basis पे constituency delimitation होगा, the number of seats allocated for the southern states in Lok Sabha, in Rajya Sabha will fall down, while those of states like UP and Bihar will increase. Fine, so this is one another major concern. Also इस बार caste census होगा साथ में. फिर you have reservation also. women Nari Shakti Adhiniyam, Nari Shashaktikaran Adhiniyam, which provides for 30% reservation, 33% reservation for women, and that is also going to get implemented. फिर caste based reservation का भी seats which are reserved for SCs and STs, so they will also have to figure into this delimitation exercise. So all this will complicate the matters. Plus Article 81 has fixed our Lok Sabha seats at 550. But now once the delimitation exercise is to be done almost after 50 years, more than 50 years, should we increase the total number of seats of Lok Sabha? Should we go beyond the 550 seats? Because the population since then has grown much. Fine, so all these issues remain. Fine, so it is in this context you have to go about writing this essay. Yes, discuss Article 82 and Article 170. Article 82 provides for delimitation at the national level of territorial constituencies for Lok Sabha election. Article 170 is by the delimitation of the states by the state legislature. And the delimitation commission's role in redrawing the constituency boundaries, based on the delimitation act enacted by the center, enacted by the state under Article 170, delimitation commission is constituted, which has to carry out this delimitation exercise. Delimitation commission के members कौन है? Retired Supreme Court judge, the chief election commissioner or a election commissioner nominated by him, and at the state level the state election commissioner. Fine. 84th वगैरह and its impact on freeze of seats, वो सारा explain करते हुए what are the current issues that will emerge. Yes. Fine. So that is how you will go about. You can cite scholars' views on political and constitutional implication of delimitation. जो भी scholar ने इस दौरान इस पे लिखा हो, अगर आपके पास कुछ है तो you can mention those scholars. Yes. जो key differentiator होगा आपके आंसर में, while demographic realignment is necessary for equitable representation, political tension over seat allocation and impact on marginalized group could challenge the process. The exercise must balance procedural transparency with need for regional and political stability. Yes, and accordingly you conclude. So basically you are trying to strike a balance, saying that yes, the delimitation is essential, but then its impact also needs to be seen.
Ever felt that despite studying hard, you are not sure if you're focusing on the topics that really matter for UPSC Mains 2026? Many aspirants spend months revising the same basics, but the exam demands depth, analysis and interlinkages, not just coverage. That's why Vision IAS has designed a 3-month intensive Mains Advanced Course 2026. This program handpicks the most crucial static portions, dives deep into complex analytical areas, and integrates current affairs with Mains 365, ensuring that nothing essential is left uncovered. With sectional mini tests, interactive classes you can revisit anytime, and dedicated mentor support, this course transforms your preparation into a Mains focused strategy. The course begins on 8th October at 2 p.m. and is available offline in Delhi and online for students across the nation. Take this opportunity to not just prepare for UPSC Mains 2026, master the topics that matter most. To register, visit our website or call us on the given numbers.
Fine. The next question is question number 8, clause B. With respect to Nehruvian perspective of planning and economic development, examine how the early phase of economic planning in India has laid the foundation of modern India's economic growth. Yes, once again a very simple, direct question from the notes, no current affairs, nothing is required. If you have studied your content, you should be in a position to go about writing these answers. So basically about Nehruvian perspective on planning and economic development, explain how early phase of economic planning in India has led to the foundation of modern India's economic growth. तो नेहरू का रोल जो रहा as far as planning and economic development, that needs to be discussed. तो अब नेहरूवियन पर्सपेक्टिव ऑफ प्लानिंग एंड इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट जब पूछा है तो उसको स्टार्टिंग में ही यस डिस्टिंग्विश इट विथ द गांधीयन पर्सपेक्टिव. जब भी पॉल साइंस में ऑप्शन हो वेर यू कैन मेक कंपेरिजन्स, and please do make comparison. So here there is this option of making comparison between Nehruvian perspective. He was a modernist. He emphasized on dams being the temples of modern India. He believed in science and structural growth, yes, structural infrastructure development, etc. While Gandhi ji, he emphasized that village republics, his idea of development was influenced by his idea of Swaraj with his idea of Sarvodaya. And so, unlike Gandhi ji's vision of village republics, Nehru wanted to make India a modern state with well-developed infrastructure and with focus on modern industries. गांधी जी का व्यू है cottage industries, है ना, it is about a decentralized industrialization. Yes, khadi, yes. On the other hand, Nehruvian idea as far as development is faith in modern industry, science and technology, yes, based development. So that is what you, to understand Nehruvian perspective, you distinguish him with Gandhian perspective. That is how you start, and then examine how early phase of India's economic planning in India has laid the foundation of modern India's economic growth. ठीक है, उसके बाद वो तो क्या है उनका emphasis on dams, on steel plants, है ना, वो सब आपको डिस्कस करना है. ऑन प्लानिंग प्रोसेस, यस, फाइनेंशियल 5-year प्लानिंग, एनुअल प्लानिंग वगैरह पे एम्फसिस, एंड दैट हाउ इट हैज़ लेड टू द फाउंडेशन ऑफ मॉडर्न इंडियाज़ इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ. यस, तो बिगिन बाय हाईलाइटिंग स्टेट लेड इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन, सोशो इकोनॉमिक ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन. यहाँ पे गांधी जी से डिस्टिंग्विश करना है, बट emphasize his commitment to social justice and democratic governance, planning commission, 5-year planning, all this. Yes, you can, first and second 5-year plan were very much, second 5-year plan, Mahalanobis plan, है ना, was very much influenced by Nehru. Fine. यस, मॉडर्न इंडिया के ग्रोथ में, यस, उसके बाद नेहरू के बाद ये कह सकते हैं कि हिज विजन वाज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, लेड द फाउंडेशन, बट पोस्ट नेहरू यू डू नॉट फाइंड एनी सच, है ना. उनका स्टेट लेड इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन का मॉडल था, बट 1991 विद न्यू इकोनॉमिक पॉलिसी, है ना, स्टेट्स रोल एज इन इकोनॉमी was discouraged as part of liberalization, प्राइवेटाइजेशन एंड ग्लोबलाइजेशन. स्टेट्स रोल वाज, है ना, उनका इम्पोर्ट सब्सटीट्यूशन का आइडिया था. यस, और यहाँ पे एक्सपोर्ट प्रमोशन का आइडिया है. तो ऑल दैट यू कैन डिफ्रेंशिएट ऑल्सो दैट कि ऑफ कोर्स हिज आइडियाज डिड नॉट रिमेन रेलेवेंट एज सच post 1991, but his emphasis on social justice continues to remain important. Plus you find it is his developmental model, his developmental planning which has laid a foundation for modern India. तो ये जो भी steel plants, dams, and these large education institutes, all, and science and technology, IASC in Bangalore, all these have been established under Nehruvian leadership. तो his development प्रोवाइड्स. तो कैसे करोगे, गांधी जी से कंपेयर करोगे, फिर उनका क्या डेवलपमेंट मॉडल है, उसका क्या कंट्रीब्यूशन रहा, उसके बाद यू विल क्रिटिक सेइंग दैट, है ना, पोस्ट 1990 द रेलेवेंस डिक्लाइंड, है ना, उनका जो मॉडल है वर्सेस द न्यू लिबरल मॉडल ऑफ डेवलपमेंट विच इमर्ज्ड वर डिफरेंट. बट वंस अगेन फिर कंक्लूड करोगे reiterating the importance of his developmental model, developmental planning as having provided the foundation, है ना. तो प्लानिंग का मिशन हट गया है आज के दिन. तो ये सब क्रिटिक में आप थोड़ा सा मेंशन कर सकते हो कि द एरा ऑफ प्लानिंग under a very stringent planning under planning commission no longer is prevalent, rather we have moved towards and from centralized planning towards indicative planning under नीति आयोग. तो ऐसे करके थोड़ा क्रिटिक करो और फिर से रीटरेट करो उनका इम्पोर्टेंस. दैट इज़ हाउ यू राइट गुड आंसर्स. और ये सिंपल क्वेश्चंस है, यू शुड बी इन अ पोजीशन टू राइट आंसर्स ऑन देम. Yes, next is illustrate with examples how political parties in India have played a crucial role in drawing historically disadvantaged groups into mainstream political system. Fine. So once again, role of political parties in drawing historically disadvantaged groups, है ना. तो STs and SCs, OBCs into mainstream political system. One easy option is identity based mobilization. Yes, so how political parties have played that role. So with you can talk about the bullock cart capitalist emerging following the green revolution, फिर OBCs का rise in politics. Yes, identity based political mobilization, caste based political mobilization, all this has allowed to draw in the historically disadvantaged groups. Historically disadvantaged groups यही होंगे, SCs, STs, OBCs, ज़्यादा ST and SC. Yes, दलित्स, BSP का फॉर्मेशन, है ना, समाजवादी पार्टी, BSP is the first party formed on a दलित आइडेंटिटी. तो इन सब के बारे में बताते हुए आपको ये आंसर लिखना है. Yes, और एक you can chronologically also flow in your thoughts. Yes, to effectively discuss the role of political parties, historical and constitutional mandate that has facilitated constitutional mandate में reservation policy बोल सकते हो. तो this has also helped to draw, है ना, the historically disadvantaged. Follow up with an exploration of the mechanism employed by political parties, identity based mobilization, coalition politics. Yes, फिर limitation, strength and limitation, mobilize तो कर लिया लेकिन फिर भी it leads to regionalism, it leads to secessionism, it leads to us versus them. तो वो सारा जो भी challenges हैं, and conclude with a reflection on the impact of these dynamics on India's democratic polity. Yes, fine. So this is the answer that we have given. Yes, through which you should be in a position to write, which is indicative to help you arrive at how to go about writing this answer. Yes, so basically I would like to conclude by saying that reading your newspapers is essential, and reading your notes, whatever you have, repeated reading, so that you are able to use the concepts. Yes, whatever you have read, you are able to recall and write it in the exam, make the connections and write a good answer. The more connected, the more flow that your answer will have. Please remember, it is a Pol Science answer, it is not your GS answer. GS answer is written in points, not so much with respect to your optional subject. Yes, but if you can somewhere use flowcharts and diagrams, it is fine, but too much use nahi karna hai. What you need to focus is on building these links, correlations, yes, analyzing, bringing in thinkers. That is what is going to distinguish your answers and get you the good marks that you desire, that you need to clear the exam. On that note, all the very best. I hope all of you have done well, and I hope this will motivate you only to do better. Yes, also I would say that here what we are presenting is model answers. We have taken our time to make these model answers and then I have come in front of you. But everybody can have a slightly different approach in writing the answers. So if you have written decent answers, that should hold you in good stead. Fine. On that note, thank you.